Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new year. Welcome to Jessica Payne Live. I am your host, Jessica Payne. And here on the show, we always talk about how real is greater than perfect. It is so nice to see you all. This is a special time of my episode. And it's to accommodate a guest I have on today, someone I'm very excited to bring on. First and foremost, I'll let you come in, get seated virtually, as it were. Welcome back to the new year. We have so much to cover today. And we're going to talk about everything from Facebook to, creating conversations to turning conversations into conversions. And, but also some really cool topics like podcasting and all around kind of leveraging the power of going live on social media to create really valuable conversations. So welcome back. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you. And if you're watching this live, we're going to get started. So hey, Christy, quick shout out to you. And it looks like we've got Alfredo as well. Alfredo, thanks for joining us. I'm going to bring on my amazing guest today. First and foremost, you may recognize him. Welcome to the show, Dwayne Richards.
Hey, Jessica, thanks for inviting me today.
So for those of you who may not recognize Dwayne, I was sort of fangirling for a while, following him from afar. A quick bio is you've got so much under your belt. You're an author. You've taught courses on Udemy. You've got your own highly successful podcast, Com Cafe, and live show, which we're going to talk about today. And not only that, I think in my mind, you've really established yourself as an authentic brand yourself, which might be such a close analysis that you've ever thought about it. But you come across as someone who is smart, you've got integrity, and maybe it's your Canadian roots. But I'm excited to bring you on the show today because I like your style, and I know a lot of people really admire what you do. So thanks for joining us today.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank you for the nice introduction. It's I know what the question. Yeah, I'll wait to let you get into the questions. I love the questions that you've lined up for us to talk to today, and yeah, let's get to it.
Yeah, well, of course. So I've got a million questions, but I think the first and foremost one is people would like to probably know where you hail from. You have a really interesting background. And I should mention, you're not only an author or podcaster, but a financial advisor, and you work with all sorts of clients to help bring them more financial stability. What really fascinates me is how you've discovered your niche and how you're really owning it. Mm-hmm. And so my first question is, what kind of got you into your industry, and what inspired you to use social media to help promote what you do?
Okay. First and foremost, what got me into the industry? For years, as a CPA and CMA accountant, people on LinkedIn were actively recruiting me, saying, "Hey, you should join our business." And I said, never say never. I said, I never want to be a financial advisor. Like, I have one. I don't want to be him, and I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell insurance.
Right.
And then a sequence of events, and here I am 4 years later, and that's what I do. But it has a bigger purpose because it goes back to the mission, and it relates to just not necessarily financial literacy is a buzzword. I don't really like the word. It's just educating people and having them prepared for when life happens.
Yes.
And I think I sent you a note that life happened to me several times in the course of 3 to 4 years. And even as a financial professional, as an accountant, someone who was educated, I wasn't prepared for those life events. And I'm like, wow, if I wasn't prepared, what is the average person, what are the chances that they are? So let me take my life experiences and get licensed so I can do it the correct way, which is as a licensed financial advisor, to then be on the internet and talking about money and other things, and not just be a no offense to our cryptic currency financial experts that have popped up in the last little while, but to actually come up with a real plan of how to structure someone's financial well-being.
Yeah, you bring so much knowledge. I think finances are on a lot of people's minds right now,
Mm-hmm.
especially here in the United States with recent developments with taxes and whatnot. But you strike me as someone who has, you're able to distill down a highly complex subject into bite-sized pieces so that it's understandable. I can imagine people come to you with a full range of experience with finances, whether it's just starting out to folks probably asking you more expert level questions. I guess that sparks my next question. Has that been helpful, your ability to kind of translate big ideas or big challenges into smaller pieces? Has that helped as you kind of on your show or in your sort of online realm? Because I feel like a lot of people would come to you still maybe seeking the same answers to the same questions, or maybe you're troubleshooting in other areas.
Yeah, I think almost sometimes it goes the other way. That I think, and I was guilty of it recently and even realized it today, that too often we get into go right to a product solution and then don't really actually put the plan together. So it's almost going the other way, that to go back up to the big picture to figure out what is, for example, if we use live video. So for example,
Right.
with podcasting, and we help people, so I did it for myself. So using live video and podcasting as a way to generate leads. And first we say, well, where are, like, who is your client? Like, who is your prospect? Where are they? And then what is the message that you want to share? So it's really taking back to that 10,000 foot level to say, okay, what's that overall message that you want on your, in this case, on your show, or on Com Cafe? And people say, what's Com Cafe? And I'm like, well, we cover a bunch of different things on, it's about for entrepreneurs. We talk about mindset, personal development and professional development. I have a nice big wide net because I can bring on authors, I can bring on speakers, I can bring on other people to demonstrate to them the power of, Facebook Live and podcasting. And then I'll create my own show later, which is be more about the financial, and then not try and confuse things. So it is a challenge.
Yeah. We had a quick question from Alfredo, and it's slightly skews, but Alfredo, I want to honor your question. He's also wondering if you're into LinkedIn groups as well. Is that part of your network? I think I know the answer to this because I saw you pop up on LinkedIn earlier, but do you use LinkedIn groups much, or is it, where are you at in the social sphere, I guess? Facebook, other areas?
It's really interesting. Like 4 years ago, I actually drew out this, I did a whole, I'm not going to be an accountant anymore, I'm going to be a social media marketer. That didn't last very long, but I went back to it, and actually I drew out this graphic to say, okay, how does it work? So YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook groups, it's this really nice graphic to understand where all the pieces are. So I have done is in the last 4 years, I've built up from about 100 LinkedIn contacts to about 1,900, and did that really organically and like doing a lot of networking. I've spent a lot of time in Facebook building that up, and now kind of shifting back and going back to LinkedIn a little bit, and actually looking to actually creating like a podcasting or more of a buddy system group, because we talked about the podcast buddies, but it's more about than just podcasting. So looking now to create a LinkedIn group, because I still have coming from the corporate world, I have a lot of contacts in the corporate world who aren't in Facebook. Surprise, surprise, we're in Facebook tonight, but not everyone loves Facebook. So then I'm like, okay, let me duplicate some of it in LinkedIn, because there's people that are more comfortable as LinkedIn as their platform. So it's a balance. So the real question is, where do your people hang out, and hang out there. So if your people are on LinkedIn, then be on LinkedIn. If they're on Facebook, be on Facebook. If it's Instagram, Snapchat, just pick one or two, and that's where you should be, and only be there if that's where your clients or your ideal prospect is.
So that's a good rule of thumb. In communications, day one of my freshman year, the golden rule was know your audience. And I feel like that rule is never going to change in marketing or whatever. So for all of you sort of following right now and wondering where the opportunities are, rather than hyper focus on one channel or a new channel, which tends to be very, very tempting, or even a new modality like going live, for example, Dwayne's got some great advice to say, know where your audience is. So, taking that time to, I think, investigate too. For me, I know some certain channels take a little bit longer in terms of finding whether or not your audience is there. Searching LinkedIn can be a bit disparate at times versus Facebook might yield some better results. So do your homework, it sounds like Dwayne is saying, and try to find where your audience is. But Alfredo, I think the answer to your question is yes, he is in LinkedIn groups. And LinkedIn groups, I think, are improving. There was a time when they weren't. Another question for you, Dwayne, would be, obviously, you've been very successful at making the shift from embracing the social media, but then embracing a new area of social media, which is this whole live element. And we can include podcasting in that. What inspired you to do that? And what advice would you give to folks who might be a little nervous about jumping into something so new?
I guess the first answer is having a mentor. So having a mentor to tell you to do it, even though he wasn't necessarily doing it himself. Okay. And he more put out the challenge. So I guess back in, it's been about a year. So I think November, December of 2016. So let's say December. So in December, he challenged me to do a Facebook Live a day for 60 days. And I think I did it for probably about 50. I think I missed a few days over Christmas of 2016. I missed a couple of days over Christmas. Surprise, surprise, you just don't necessarily do it over Christmas. And sure. And that really kind of, and seriously, I go back and I see some of the original videos I did probably 3 years ago. I did a course with Peak Potentials or New Peaks called Train the Trainer. And you came back and you're supposed to record 7 videos just of yourself in 7 days. And I went back and watched those and they're really bad. So it's one of those things.
But you still did them. You accepted the challenge.
And we didn't even, at the time, because Facebook Live wasn't really happening. That was 4 years ago. And it wasn't about even publishing them. It was just to record them for yourself and re-watch them and just watch yourself. And that's really hard. That's really hard to watch, like can be to watch yourself. And then once you get into the flow of it, you just do it. And I had some colleagues that jokingly tease me because I was like, some days I was doing 2 or 3 lives in a day, and they're like, "Man, every time I turn on Facebook, you're there." So it's a good way to. We say if you want to be a speaker, the best way to become a speaker is to speak. So everyone wants to be on someone else's stage or go be a speaker at a meetup or different events. So you say, well, just create your own audience. So Facebook Lives and podcasting, we recommend to our clients, is a great way to become a better speaker. Doing this, improving, like really that's what Facebook, I find I have more fun doing Facebook Lives because you just go with the flow. I find sometimes doing a recorded podcast harder because you're trying to be perfect. And I love what yours is like. I love this.
Couldn't agree more.
Be real before perfect. Like, I don't, you don't have to cut it. You can just go with the flow.
It's you hit on so many things that I love. You spot on. I love how you capture that improv. It's sort of like you kind of have to. You can only prepare so much, which I over prepare. Which is another reason I like live is the fact that once you're live, you're live. You kind of have to give it up to what's happening, and you sort of have to leave it all on the field. And I've had lives that have cut out. I've had lives where you can't hear me the entire time, where the other person started to host and it just helped me out and I came back on. So yeah, there is a craziness to this live element that it sounds like you just jumped, it sounds like you just jumped right into it. And so I guess I would encourage others kind of a little nervous about it. There's a way of having to just let everything go in live. It's just do it. It sounds like what you're saying. Just do it. Just try it.
Yeah. And then, I'm just about finished reading Mel Robbins' book, the 5-second rule. So if someone's, and the cool thing is now with Facebook, like we love Be Live, but you don't have to use Be Live. Like Facebook itself has built up his own stuff. So you can do Facebook Lives inside of Facebook Live, and just it's if people don't know the 5-second rule, it's just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hit the live button, and you just start talking, and and then the really cool thing is when you do it, it's like it used to say, hey, it's just you and I having a conversation. Like Alfredo and other people are technically just eavesdropping on our conversation, but we make it public.
Yeah.
To really have the conversation to the camera, to say, I'm just having the conversation to the camera and I'm talking to one person.
Yeah.
And then if you make a connection with one person, because sometimes people are obsessed. I have a lot of guys here that obsess about views and numbers, and I'm like, I don't care about. It's nice to see that someone's watched it, but
yeah. So I hear you. I see that a lot from folks who contribute regularly on YouTube. They're really hyper focused on numbers. And to be fair, that this is a great place to just do my PSA. We're all here to generate whatever it is we're to generate: brand awareness, followers for our cause, sales revenue, whatever. But what I'm learning is that at the end of the day, it comes down to the quality of your conversation. So, and again, it's that live element. I think people are way too busy, especially on social media. They got a social media to veg or to check in, but it's certainly not to buy products. So what I've learned and what I've heard other experts say is, spend your time trying to create value, and just what that comes down to more often than not is just really solid, real conversations.
And that was the premise around communications for results, or Com Cafe.
Yeah.
So it's Com Cafe, but our company is communications for results, and it's about having conversations on different platforms, but with a desired outcome. So, but identifying up front, what is your desired outcome? So, for example, like if you got a minute, I'll explain my concept of when you come on my show. It's a little bit different because it's we have a desired outcome. So what do we want to achieve? We establish that. I have like 1 or 2 starting questions, and then we just have a conversation that, based on your answers to the first and second question, that's where the conversation goes. So it freaks some people out because they want a whole, like, some people haven't come on my show because they want a list of like the 10 questions I'm going to ask them. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to ask you yet because I don't know how you're going to answer the first question. Depends how I feel. Depends how you feel. Like it freaks people out because they really want to have control over where the conversation is going to go. And I'm like, but that's not really a conversation. That's me interviewing you or interrogating you. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And knowing the difference between when an interview is appropriate, like if you're an expert on Bloomberg, versus what really should be expected in a Facebook Live. People want to see, people will tune into CNN to watch CNN. What they expect on Facebook Live is a casual conversation, just like you were saying, people sort of eavesdropping. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like if it's a training, it's a different. Like if I advertise that, hey, I'm going to have a training. But people don't want to like get trained by me. They want to know who I like, what, why, what makes me get out of bed in the morning. Like what makes us tick, why I'm good at what I do, because I care. Different things like that. It's and Facebook is, and I think a lot of people get turned off by the other piece. So it's really being like, figure out what you want, own your brand, and then just build it.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed in terms of folks that I enjoy watching is people are very generous in live streaming. It's something I haven't necessarily seen on other social media channels, but there's something really interesting happening with Facebook Live, I think, and maybe it's because a lot of folks embracing it are coaches or experts in a certain field, and they you can tell the ones that understand live is a little bit more about an exchange of knowledge. People are incredibly generous. I've just asked flat out questions, and on any other platform, I think folks may have held that information, but people are more than generous with information. And that's something that I can really only say I've experienced. Every now and then you get a YouTuber who's really generous with their time. Like Roberto Blake comes to mind. He's incredible with his communities, and even on his comments on YouTube, he'll answer like almost every single question with a thoughtful response. But something really cool I think is happening with Facebook Lives, and maybe it's because these conversations are real time, the quality is there. And I don't know if you've noticed the same thing.
Yeah, like I was like I'm in one of Joel Combs, one of his groups, and that's where I learned about Be Live, and he shares like a lot of stuff in his different groups as well. That it's pretty amazing that the content that the guys that really they aren't, it's not the scarcity mindset. There's like, I'm going to share so much good stuff that you're going to buy my program from me later, because they're like, if this is what I give away for free, imagine what's behind the curtain.
Right.
And a lot of times behind the curtain is exactly what they shared. It's just that then you can watch it at your own pace.
I agree. Yeah, it's sort of like and it's our responsibility too, I think, as hosts of Facebook Live, if, do exactly what you say you're going to do in the show. You can totally be transparent if you're running a promotion or whatnot. I think people are smart. They're going to understand that you have a purpose to being here, but it sounds like, keep your promises that you make, and value is kind of the thing to shoot for. We kind of touched on it, but I'm curious, is there a positive trend you're seeing right now in terms of whether it's podcasting or live content in general?
I think it's part of what you just said, is that more coaches are using it so that people can learn about who they are and get a taste for what they offer before you have to buy.
Right.
So I have a number of colleagues here in the Toronto area that are embracing and doing more. It's still marketing in some cases. So it's doing Facebook Lives to help promote. For example, I bring authors onto my show. So we bring authors on because someone's just come out with a brand new book, and guess what? You've written a book, but no one still doesn't know who you are. So then come on to the Facebook Live and have a conversation about what your book is about, and then we can put a link to where people can get your book. But it's showing people that you still have to market your business, and if your business is a book, a course, a workshop, a seminar, that Facebook Lives are a good way of doing your own marketing.
Yeah, I think especially as people are a little bit more sensitive to being marketed to everywhere else.
Yeah, but so there's still a marketing piece, but you're starting to share a story. So I could share like key points from a chapter of my book, or I can share a key point to what an upcoming workshop is. So someone doesn't come to the workshop. If I just sold you on the workshop and you come and you take my workshop and then you're disappointed, you're not really happy. If I present to you ahead of time, okay, this is the concept of the workshop, and now I've at least shared the outline of the workshop with you, and then you come, chances are that you're going to be happier because you have a better knowledge of what you're buying, as opposed to just sending you a script or a copy, email copy.
Yeah, and you touch on something really interesting. I guess it's one of the positive trends, if I will, that I'm noticing is there's a lot of forgiveness, especially the more transparent and genuine you are in your business. And I think having regular live conversations where people know that Dwayne's a really solid guy. He's not only an expert in what he does, but I can trust him. It's that whole thing around trust. It's sort of like, if you make a mistake, or let's say that webinar wasn't hot, or your launch was a little clunky, or maybe folks were just a little underwhelmed for whatever reason. I feel like as long as you're transparent and your goal is to deliver value, and like you were pointing out, like go the extra mile to reconnect with people, I feel like there's a lot of forgiveness. People just want that value, but it's like the most important piece. But I feel like I'm seeing a lot more forgiveness on social media, specifically when people feel they can trust that person. They're more authentic.
Yeah, and I think it's a balance, because I know like in my early days, I kind of had like random backgrounds. So you're doing Facebook. Yeah, I love your background. It's very professional. It's calm. It's not distracting. I have like crazy backgrounds, and then someone's like, no, you should have it more professional so that it's like not distracting. So different things like that. That's again, and that's kind of what we do with podcast buddies, but also with Facebook Lives is it be real before perfect, but still as you grow, then you start to sort of say, okay, I went and got a better light so that, I have better lighting so that it looks better. But also people know, like you said, like my show is generally it's pretty authentic. So it is me. Like some days I used to do stuff like first thing in the morning, and guess what? I didn't necessarily brush my hair today. And sometimes I invite guests on and they're like, oh, I can't come on. I haven't, I don't have my makeup done yet. And so I always am respectful of my female guests.
Right. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. But again, it also goes to that brand. And brand is, you're the branding person. Brand is important. So sometimes it's, okay, what do you try to do too many times? So that's why if we go back to podcasting, we sometimes introduce people to podcasting first, because podcasting, I just need the audio. So I don't need lighting. I don't need to worry about the video, the quality, that I can shoot a podcast on my phone and just have the audio and start that way. If people are trying to figure out how do I get started, there's different ways of getting started. I actually started first with Facebook Lives, because it was, in my sense, it was easier, because I just pulled out the phone and hit the go live button, and I'm like, I didn't have to do any editing. You just go live.
Yeah. Alfredo is touching on the reality, real is greater than perfect, of live streaming. He said, video has its quirks, but technology will fail, and we expect that. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alfredo.
Yeah. And then it's no different than, like, we were back, I don't know if people remember, maybe 2 years ago, there was Blab. So Blab was going to be the next thing, right? So, and a lot of people like built their shows, like the radio shows on the Blab platform, and then it went away, and they're like, wait a second, I just built my whole platform on, guess what? Rented, not even rented. It was like free real estate. And even Facebook, like this isn't even rented. This is free real estate and then, so
squatters.
I love it when, my colleagues I'm on Facebook and people are posting that's like, hey, just say hi if you can see this, Facebook changed their algorithm again, say hi just so I know that someone's watching.
Yes, I do that all the time.
You used to do that? You don't do that anymore, do you?
No, I see that all the time. I've never responded to one. I'm a little.
Okay. You don't do that personally, do you? Like, it's okay if you do, but it's a kind of not a pet peeve. I'm just like, so here's a quick trick. So here's about using Facebook. So I posted yesterday or Monday, lose track of the days. I posted a thing saying, hey, I have this new strategy where I convert prospects to clients on Facebook. I'm doing a Zoom call later this month. So here, I'll offer it to you. If anyone's watching, if they want to join it. So I'm doing this Zoom call later this month. Just message me to say, yes, I want in. And specifically for those people that are whining about Facebook changing their algorithm again. Perfect for those people. And I got like 30 people saying, yeah, I want to know. It's like everyone wants to know, okay, what's the next secret to cracking the Facebook code? Guess what? There is no secret. So the training is going to be how to use Facebook Live to do it, right? So just use Facebook Live and just be real. And then actually how to use Facebook Live and then bring on guests and then leveraging other people's, just like what we're doing today. So you brought me on, I posted on my page, you posted me on your page. So we're leveraging each other's networks, and therefore we just doubled our reach tonight by bringing on a guest. So
absolutely.
We didn't post something, and it's because people are still using the marketing for the post and pray or pay and pray. So I'm gonna create a Facebook ad, and if I pay for the Facebook ad, I will get traction because I've paid Facebook to promote it for me.
And they will deliver. But
it's the people that have posted and prayed to say, I'm going to create this post. I don't want to pay for it. I've never paid for Facebook ads yet today.
Wow.
It's
all been just word of mouth, huh?
Yeah, just leveraging other people. And then you just bring people on, and we do it a little bit, but I don't like it too much where some people are also trying to manipulate the Facebook machines in their lives to say, hey, if you hear me, type a 2, if you do this, because again, it's wanting all of the, I get it. You want the engagement, you want the likes and stuff, but then you're like, but it's not a real conversation because you're trying to fool the Facebook algorithms again.
And it's wicked annoying. At the end of the day, people forget that 1999 tactics don't work on social media. So yeah, I'm right there with you. You touched on something that I think is a good trend that's happening right now, and it's this creative collaboration. I guess you could call it good old-fashioned networking, but so instead of like trying to manipulate the algorithm, just be cognizant of what the algorithm likes. Facebook likes when you keep people on Facebook. What I have found in terms of good old-fashioned networking is finding other kindred spirits who happen to have a network that's similar to yours or touching your industry, bring them on the show. But if you come from an organic place where that's all genuine and the person, like you're an expert in podcasting and live and just a solid, not just an expert, but a solid human being. So it's like you're going to resonate with folks who frankly expect authenticity, which is sort of my banner tone. They expect people to come on and be real. And that's why we're letting people know where they can find out more about you. But this is it's not an infomercial.
And it is real. So these are my books that I read, and my girlfriend read hers.
Real?
And but someone said, "Hey, are those real books?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're real books." It's
it's not like smoke and mirrors, but I think you hit on something. People are really cynical and skeptical right now, and so it's like it's much more responsibility for us to really, really just not only say we're going to be authentic, but just be real. But I'm glad you pointed out those are your real books back there. Because I was like, I'm kidding. You touched on it a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about Podcast Buddies? Just in case folks are interested in that.
So it's the name was kind of fun because we had something else that was like how to do something or other, and then we're like, oh, that doesn't really. So the whole idea about Podcast Buddies was it was like a workout buddy. So do you go to the gym at all? Do you go to the gym?
I don't go to it. I have a track I run around. It's a local track, but
but generally,
I get the buddy system for sure.
Oh, it's a buddy system. So hey, when you go swimming, don't go swimming by yourself. To have a buddy, don't go. If you go to the gym, we work out better if you have a buddy. So it was about podcasting, and the whole idea was a buddy system. So we actually call it podcast buddy. We lift each. I forget my own tagline. Lifting each other up. The fact that so in our community, when someone has a new podcast, they post it in the group, and then people share it, and we listen to it, and then just encouraging. So then we have the free group where we put some basic stuff to say why podcast. So hey, Gary Vaynerchuk, everyone loves Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like, hey, if you're B2B, you should be podcasting because you should be your own digital marketing company.
Yeah.
And for some reason, because Gary Vaynerchuk said it, then everyone wants to podcast. Perfect. But guess what? He doesn't actually help you podcast. He just tells you to podcast.
Right.
And then we just said, okay, well, there's different types of podcasts, and there's different, there's all these different scenarios. And then if people go to Google, I like Google just like the next person, but it can be very confusing, very clouded, and very people just don't know where to go. So we said, well, let's create a group. And then back in January, so a year ago, we actually ran our first workshop. We actually had 6 people come out, and we sold it. And we hadn't even created it yet. I'll tell you my secret. We hadn't even created it yet. It was like, we're going to teach people how to podcast. And 6 people came and 6 people bought. And they're like, great, we want to. I'm like, oh, crap. We got to. So we created it after we saw there was a demand for it. And then in 2017, we built on it. So then by the end of last year or the beginning of this year, we now have sort of the new version or Podcast Buddies 2.0, which now we actually know what we're doing. We have a number of successful clients who have published a number of their own episodes and they are running on their own. And then we went back and we relaunched we reset our goal for 2018, which is to say we want to help 300 people launch their podcast in 2018. And
very cool.
And the cool thing is, so actually I have a client who's actually starting his very first he just started like a week ago. And he's doing his very first episode tomorrow. And he's just using Facebook Live.
Beautiful.
And then
That's
we're
all
going
you
to,
need.
after it, we're going to show him how to download it and do whatever he needs to do with it to get it up, put it on a host site and get it to iTunes. But we're like, we don't care about doing all that right now. Just shoot some episodes. And once you have some content, then we'll show you how to do step one. And he's super excited. He called me just before the show and he's like, okay, I'm doing my first interview. And he's getting like 300 views on his Facebook Lives already. And
That's
he's
great.
super authentic. It's his name, Mike Kent. It's Forged by the Fire. He is actually recording his Facebook Lives in his furnace room. So in the background is furnace. Is his furnace. It's really cool. And
cool.
He has some like amazing stories. He's made big changes for himself. And he's like, this is the only place I get away from the kids and not be interrupted. So I go down to the furnace room and behind. Now when he's doing his other show, he's got a better background when he's doing his podcast, but he was doing Facebook Lives in the furnace room. And that's where people can just make it your own. Like just make it a little bit quirky, and you have to capture some different guy. One of my guys is like, for Facebook Lives or doing video, he had 5 things. It's like, okay, you got to get someone's attention right from the beginning, because if you don't capture their attention,
sure.
So he's like, so capture their attention, energy, all that stuff, but still be authentic, because people can figure out if you're following a script.
I agree.
But if it's your show, have a script, because then people know like if they're watching your show, the Jessica Payne show, then they know, there's this piece, there's this, and they have a flow to your show.
Have a flow to my show. And speaking of unscripted, so I was looking down a bunch because our studio cat is on my lap. And of course, now she demands, I was like, I'm doing a show, dude. Anyway, so you might see a tail cross.
That's one of the tips on our pod. I've downloaded some different people. So like set 10, 20 things to do before you record your podcast. It's like, put all the pets away.
Nope. Not going to happen with this cat, but or the kids. Yeah, we all think about the BBC guy, and here she goes. We'll see. Yeah, she's going to step on a cord. Beautiful. She's navigated it by now, but mild panic over here. Nice. Never a dull moment. You want to step on my lap again? Okay, we'll do that. Yeah, that was the tail there.
Yeah, if you listen to Chris Garbo, the side hustle school, he actually gives a shout out to his cat at the end of every episode. His cat is like in Oregon or something. He's like, and he always gives a shout out to his cat. So
Alfredo, I should, but I won't. I love my cat so much, and you know what? I'd rather see a little bit. You can see the tail, unless she breaks the internet. She's here to stay because she is a part of me. But yes, I think put distractions away is a good rule. You touched on something that was really, really cool, Dwayne. You promoted an event, maybe even without knowing you were promoting it, before you even prepared it. What a great way to kind of test interest in something, and in a way almost finance you creating your podcast course.
Yeah. And then we're actually doing this with a colleague of mine probably next week. So we've posted this thing about someone here. When a friend of mine said, one of the financial products here in Canada, she's like, that's a scam. And I'm like, really? Like, that's been a product forever in Canada. And like the banking industry is built on that product. So I don't think it's a scam.
Right.
It may not be for everyone. And so we had this whole chain, and one of my colleagues came on. She's like, oh, I'd love to have you on my show. I'm like, sure, I'll be a guest on your show. And then I direct messaged her and say, hey, okay, what's your, she's like, oh, I haven't actually created the show yet.
Yeah.
Like, awesome. So then I said, well, why don't you come to be a guest on Calm Cafe? And she's like, well, what would I talk about? I'm like, well, let's talk about your upcoming show, to then put a feeler out on someone else's show to say, is there a market for your show? Like it's called, is there a market, or is there, in this case, is there an audience for this topic? So she's probably going to be on my show next week. And we'll talk about what her new upcoming show is. So that's what we tell people is like, so I'm doing this. I didn't do this much last year. But now I'm doing it. I'm going to do more of it this year, aiming for like one a week, maybe, is to be a guest on other people's shows at least once a week, because I've done it so much last year where I had people on my shows. So why not ask to be on other people's shows?
Yeah, it's it's good old fashioned PR, really, it's smart because we're only as powerful as our networks at the end of the day. So it goes back to that creative collaboration. I think as long as it's a mutual decision, and at the end of the day, you coming on adds value as a guest to viewers. It's like a win-win situation.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to Thursday. So today's what, Tuesday, Thursday? I'm having Daniel Gaffin come on my show, and he runs a podcast called Can I Pick Your Brain? And he's actually just hit 150 downloads. And his podcast is ranked like one of the top 20 podcasts on iTunes. And he's come up with a brand new book. So he sent out, and he's actually on like 10 podcasts like this week alone. So he's had a successful podcast. He said the big names on his podcast, and then he's like, wait a second. Okay, I'm going to come up with my book. So he literally put out feelers, and he booked himself on, I don't know, like 50 podcasts.
Yep.
And because he's built up enough presence from his own show to get to be a guest on other people's show, like, sure, I'd love to have Daniel on my show because he's going to promote my show to his. So it's really, so again, people are looking. So again, here's one last tip. Well, not one last one, but as a quick example, I did this. I was going through Facebook. So here's how I use Facebook if someone's watching, they want a quick tip. I was going through Facebook, and I look, as a financial advisor, they teach us to observe about life events. Mm-hmm. Someone having a baby, someone getting married, getting engaged, deaths, funerals, babies, graduations. So someone in my face, he put an announcement saying he just got engaged. I'm like, oh, congratulations. So I go to his Facebook page, and there's a picture of him and his fiance, and then on his Facebook cover is his brand new book called The Introvert's Edge. And I'm like, oh, really cool. So I sent a message to him, hey, Matthew, and I thought I had met him through somewhere, and it turns out I didn't. I had never met him before in my life. I said, hey, congratulations on your engagement. Hey, I love the book. I'm also an introvert, so I'd love to have you as a guest on my podcast. Mm-hmm. And he came back and he said, yes. I'm like, cool. So then, kind of like what we did, 15 minutes before we do the podcast, we're on chatting. I'm like, yeah, just curious, I was like, well, I always pick like one little podcast a week to go as a guest, because I know there's always people like myself that where I was 10 years ago. So I always give other people a chance. So it's like, your podcast was my little podcast to pick this week. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then we did this interview. So it's like, if people go to Com Cafe, it's episode 51 with Matthew Pollock, and he's an Aussie based in Austin, Texas, and he's one of the top business coaches he's doing about 6 figures a month in coaching people. And if you listen to that podcast, it's a little bit of self-promoting, but I guess that's okay. If you listen to the podcast, he'll actually teach you why he does not follow the Gary Vaynerchuk product launch formula. He actually talks about in that episode, we talk about the Netflix approach to podcasting, which was something contrary to what we kept telling all of our podcasting students. We're like, okay, you got to have new content. You got to record a new podcast, new content. Every week, record a podcast. And then he's like, no. He's like, I don't want a full-time job. I'm like, what? No, I don't do that. I'm like, what do you mean you don't do that? No, I don't. He does not do that. He goes into the studio and he records a block. So he did this 3 years ago. He went in, and over the course of time, he recorded 25 episodes.
Yeah.
12 episodes of training, 10 episodes of guests, and like some other 25 is his series. And he put it up and he left it there for 3 years. No new content for 3 years. He does a live TV show. So, hey, you come on like today, just like what I did. Hey, Jessica, I interviewed this guy named Matthew Pollard, and he's really got this really cool thing about marketing. It's episode 52 of the Com Cafe. So people go listen to 52, and then people go and listen to all the other podcasts, and then they're sitting there waiting for new content, and no new content comes.
Right.
So they go to his website, and there's some blogs, and again, no new content on his website. And they're like, what the heck? I really like this guy. They pick up the phone, they call him, and he books one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
And as a result,
enough.
he doesn't do, not for everyone, but as a result, he then just spent the last 2 years writing a book and building a whole new content. And then he's launching that new content, launching the new podcast. And then he goes and lives life for a year doing one-on-one coaching and some other stuff, but he's not crunching. He crunches a lot of content all at once, and then he publishes it, and then he just lets it, he builds the funnel, and then people go through the funnel. And it's really where he's like, product launch is like, you got to launch a new product, you got to launch another product, got to launch another product, got to launch another product. And he's like, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah, you're touching on something. I love that it's not the anti-Gary Vee, but it's refreshing to hear
another approach.
Another approach. I'm actually a huge fan of front-loading content, which is what I call it. So it's sort of, you build the content, you publish, and then you repurpose. Because at the end of the day, and I think especially for folks who are interested in maybe creating a live show or creating a podcast, like anything new, you may embrace it, but then all of a sudden you pick yourself up and you realize, I've just assigned myself a dog of homework that I have to deliver each day or each month. And that's why we drop off, right? It's like learning a new exercise routine. So it's, I don't know if you share that experience,
no, but I'm guilty of it because I have probably 5 podcasts in the queue. So one of the guys, I thought, I'll be honest, I thought I'd already published it. And he just sent me a message yesterday. He's like, hey, just a heads up, Happy New Year. Just want to know when you're publishing that podcast. And I'm like, oh crap. Not a bad thing, because he's like, once I publish it, he'll promote the heck out of it to his audience, which is good for me. I just have to go back but I did it just before Christmas, so I recorded probably maybe 8 or 10 episodes in the month of December, and then I was only publishing like 1 a week, because then I filled the queue, but I'm like, my listeners don't want to listen to a podcast a day likely, so I have this extra, I'll publish one a week, and then Christmas happened and New Year's and
that whole life thing. So it's a good lesson. It's sort of like everyone just practice awareness when embracing anything new, whether it's a new technology or whatnot. I think part of that's one of the biggest challenges I hear from folks. I don't want to say excuses because there's a charge to it, but it's that fear of failing one more thing, maybe based on their own experience, is what prevents a lot of people from embracing live. But we are here to tell you, just embrace it. And in fact, if you're keen on just how to jump on Facebook Live in minutes, I stay till the end because I've got a little goodie for you. But just like Dwayne was saying at the top of the hour, like just do it. Quick question from Alfredo. I wanted to make sure that we addressed it. This was going back to when you were talking about promoting your financial product. He says promoting a financial product or a show. Was it alone? He's curious about what you were.
So my colleague. So I'm guessing Alfredo's in the U.S.
Yes.
So this was specifically for Canada. So in Canada, we have a product called our Registered Retirement Savings Plan. So it's called an RRSP, similar to your 401k. So it'd be the equivalent to you posting that 401ks are a scam. So she posted saying RRSPs are a scam, and that people shouldn't put money into their RRSP. And I'm like, as a financial advisor, I'm like, no, that's not right, because that's
not right.
It's each individual. If someone has a lot of wealth, there's more efficient ways to do it, that an RSP isn't necessarily the best product. But it was meant for people that have a job with companies that don't have pensions. So it was a replacement for, and same as the 401k. The 401k and the RSP in Canada were replacements for people that didn't have company pensions. So you had it was your self pension. So it's your self-directed pension plan. And so these people are promoting sort of financial literacy and helping people get out of credit. And I'm like, no, that's incorrect, because it's a vehicle, it's a tool that can be leveraged for tax purposes. And just, you have to understand what the purpose of it is. I learned firsthand, even as a financial advisor, that, hey, it's great to put money in it, but if you take money out of it early, guess what? You have to pay tax.
Oh, yes. Yes. We're very aware of it.
Yeah. So when you put in the 401k, like you could take money out of your 401k, I'm sure, but you have to pay tax on it. And then people are like, oh, what? But yeah, what did you? So, but again, that was the whole purpose of people sitting down, putting money into it without sitting with an advisor to say, what is the goal? What is the purpose? Is it for your retirement or is it to fund your startup? If it's to fund your startup, you're going to have to pay tax on it. If it's to fund your retirement, you're going to take money out later when you're not making as much money and the tax rate is less. So it's the importance. That's why, as a quick tip, as a rant, this is what I love about Facebook and podcasting, because you can get excited about when
go off.
Topic. It's like cryptocurrency.
Right.
Everyone wants to be their own financial advisor now. I'm going to get into cryptocurrency. I'm going to take my money. I'm going to take money out of my mortgages. I got to mortgage my house and go into Bitcoin. And then we're like,
yeah, I mean, it's just like any new trend.
But then we're going to complain later when our spouse leaves us and my kids don't like us because I don't, we don't have any money for the college fund anymore, and I don't have a house because I technically I went to Las Vegas and I put it on red.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't educated. I wasn't educated on cryptocurrency. My neighbor was making money and he told me to join this company, and now they don't exist. And guess what? It's not insured.
Right. Brent, it's a final. All I have to say are two words: Beanie Babies. I'll just there.
I like fidget spinners. Did you guys have fidget spinners down there?
Oh yeah, it's still roaring hot. I mean, I'm sure the kiddos have already moved on to something else. But yeah, I mean,
you can buy them at the dollar store for $1.
CVS, once it's in CVS, it's like it's good. I know we're hitting near the top of the hour, and I've got a few more questions. One is, have there been any big surprises or aha moments? Because you connect with a lot of people, so whether it's through the podcast, or being interviewed, through your own community groups that you run, is there a special story or maybe a moment that sticks out in your mind in terms of it's almost like made possible through live conversation that you think of?
What's amazing is that by having a show, generally people say yes. So as an example, I probably last year, probably about episode 30 of my podcast, there's a guy who's actually, are you familiar with T.R. Becker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So T.R. Becker's program with Peak Potentials. So Robert Riopeld was the very first Peaks trainer. So when T.R. Becker decided, okay, I'm going to have people train my program, Robert Riopeld was the very first person to get trained by him. And then Robert's been a trainer of his for like 20 years, and he still is a trainer. And I've met him personally, and he's Canadian. He's from Edmonton, and we have common connections. So last year he came out with a book, and he was getting ready to do his book launch. He sent out all these emails. Hey, I'm doing a pre-launch. Can you buy my book, or can you buy like a case of my books? And I'm like, I'd love to support you, Robert, but I have a better way. How about you come on my show and you could talk about your book? So he came on the show, and we actually, on the show, some of my contacts came on, and he put a link. Hey, if you go here, you can order my book. I'll send a signed copy. And then one of the women on the show, she went and bought it. And then he has like a online machine, and like starts dinging. He's like, hey, a sale. And then we congratulated the person online that she bought a book. So we proved on the point that Facebook Lives work, because we actually did moved from a offer to call to action to a closing a sale, all in the course of the Facebook Live, which is really cool. And then I posted it, and then people were like, hey, how did you get, people who know him, like, how did you get Robert to be on your show? And I'm like, I just asked him. Because I have a show.
Right.
Because I have a show, I have something to invite him to. So other people were like, oh, are always asking for something. And I was giving him, and I asked, but my ask was a give. I was asking him,
I love
would he
that.
like to be on my show? And my ask was really a give, because I'm giving him the opportunity to promote himself to my audience.
I love that. I think it's just what a great way to conduct yourself. I get a lot of questions about like more brand personality wise, people, especially if they're embracing social media for the first time or live. And, you know, a lot of coaches, consultants don't have social media experience or even marketing experience. So this is a great rule to highlight for them too. It's sort of, instead of ask, give. And you start out from a place of, I always say you try to start from a place of service, and that might be a little woo woo for people, but it really is. Or pay it forward, right? Is kind of the same.
Yes, I've gone back to that. Actually, it's to be, one of the intentions is to be of service through teaching.
Right.
So rather than just be of service, because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can be of service, but how do I, then just one extra piece to it, how to be of service. So for example, I'm of service by teaching people how to podcast or how to use live video, as well as then the other piece is teaching them about money and the whole financial wellness, as opposed to financial literacy, because I don't necessarily like the financial literacy, because we talk so much about financial literacy and people don't actually know what financial literacy means.
Right, and it almost implies that you're illiterate to need to be literate. But and everyone, like the wellness, I think has much more promise to it. Value, be of service through teaching. I love that. So one last question for you, Dwayne, is because teaching, I think, is a big part of how you've really grown your own brand, and maybe that's why organically why you have such a solid, the trusted brand. I know that you've taught you've been on Udemy, which for those who don't know, that's the highly popular e-learning platform. I would imagine that more than half your conversations are you literally teaching someone something. Can you talk about the power of, what is it like now to sort of use something like social media to teach specifically? Is it more difficult? Has it made your job easier, harder?
The Udemy piece is really interesting, and we'll make an offer related to Udemy before we go today. Remind me, because I actually have stuff that's good for U.S. or people around the world. So the really cool thing about Udemy is I work with a partner, and they're really raw, because that was when I was still learning about like how to use video, how to talk to the camera, not be nervous, even though you're talking about something that you know really well. And then because it was trying to be scripted, because we're trying to script it to be for a course. So the really cool thing is that now the 3 courses on Udemy, I have, I'm up over 20,000 students. And the amazing thing is, like, there's people like in India. And then I had this girl message me, and she's in Turkey, and she's like a 2nd-year engineering student in Turkey. And she was asking me these questions because she took my financial advising, like the 4 fundamentals of financial planning. And she took my course, and then she sent me a message, and we actually have this conversation where someone actually reaches out, and she's in Turkey. I'm like what other way would you be able to find a student like around the world? So Udemy, or in this case, like Facebook even, is social media is a way to make yourself global.
I mean, there really is no geography. I mean, I guess in your world, it would be knowing where your client is based. Obviously, the rules around finances will probably be different, but in terms of connectivity, the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, so we just created things. So as an example, my true business as a financial advisor, I'm only licensed in the province of Ontario in the country of Canada.
Right.
So that side of the business is somewhat limited, and I have to meet people face to face because we have to sign papers.
Sure.
All the other businesses or other things that we do are global. Like, I could help someone. I have a colleague of mine, so he connected with a guy that's in Brazil. We're going to talk to him about helping him launch his podcast in Brazil. Like I said, I have over 20,000 students in Udemy. Like 19 or 10% of them are in India.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It's about how to save money on your taxes.
Because again, I think everyone, as long as you're taxed, you're going to be interested in the answers to that question, myself included.
But I take the Tony Robbins approach, that there's lots of disclaimers to say, I am not I am not
Right.
licensed in the state of California to give you tax advice. I can tell you though that your car, if you have a car?
Yes.
Yeah. So your car is a tax deduction.
Right.
Your home office is a tax deduction. Your marketing is a tax deduction. You're, doing different things. So, hey, so my offer to your lovely listeners today is, if people message me, they can put in the how do you want to do it? Do they put in the comment section?
Yeah. Leave a comment and then we'll follow up.
Yeah. So, and if they want this, so I actually have 3 courses on Udemy. So all they have to do is just put in a comment about Udemy. So the one course is how to save money on your taxes. So if you're a home-based business, or if you're just an entrepreneur and you're just starting out, or you want to know why every person in North America should have at least some side business for tax purposes, that's what this course is about. So there's Save on Your Taxes. There's another course called The 4 Fundamentals of Financial Planning. And the first one being Cash is King, being liquid. So there's that course. And then the third course, I think was actually my first course, which is just the difference between bookkeeping and accounting. So if you're a small business, if you want to be a business owner, if you're looking at having a side hustle, or if you actually if you're self-employed, and you want to have a conversation with your banker, was actually what it was. Because if your banker says, hey, I need your balance sheet, and you're like, a balance what?
You're like, what?
Or you have income statements, and you're like, income. So it's more about terminology and the different things. So you can actually have a conversation with your accountant. Because lots of times, I can make fun of my own profession. Sometimes the accountants aren't the best communicators. So this course kind of takes the accounting lingo and simplifies it for the non-accountant. So that's basic bookkeeping hacks.
So folks, I've put it in the comments as well, but if you just leave a comment with the word Udemy, we'll get back to you and we'll point you to those 3 courses. I could probably enroll myself in all 3 right now.
That's the thing. I'll send you the link too, and it's a coupon. So so the great thing about once you create a course on Udemy, you can create your own coupon codes, and you can give your course away for free. And we use it as I work with a partner, and we call it reverse marketing. It's about how to put contents on Udemy and then generate leads for your business through Udemy. Yeah.
And Udemy is a whole other, maybe we'll have you back on, Dwayne, at some point to talk just about Udemy and e-learning. I have gotten a few questions in the past about it. Okay. So it would be a great follow-up, and we can talk specifically about e-learning and maybe even courses in general, because I know, I'm obviously launching my own Life Show Mastery, and you have such a wealth of Udemy experience. I think, let's put a pin in that, and let's have you back on and talk about Udemy and courses and e-learning so that folks can get more insight. Yeah. And
as a tip, because some people are like, how can someone be and as you say, like an expert in different things? And it's because I've branched out. So I have a mentor, a business partner, and he is the Udemy. So he has over 100,000 students on Udemy. He's co-produced over 70 courses on Udemy. So we learned everything about Udemy from him. And the cool thing is, so he's traveling the world. He's in Egypt right now. And the cool thing is, he's great at what he does, but he's a digital nomad, and he likes doing this, but he doesn't like necessarily doing this. So he doesn't like prospecting, nor does he need to, because there's people like us that then talk about it. And then when people say, hey, I'd love to learn how to do Udemy, and then I just introduce them to him, and then he does his thing. So but I understand enough about it because I did it for myself. So I know how my 3 courses are working. I know the benefits of doing Udemy or using Udemy as a piece of as your marketing, as well as to build your it does become a revenue stream. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to honor your time. We are actually a little past the hour. First off, I want to give a shout out to everyone watching. Thanks, Alfredo, Gina. I think I saw Johnny there. I think I saw, who else did I see in there? A couple more people.
thanks for watching the entire episode. Dwayne, we covered a lot of information. And again, folks, if you're interested in the courses, if you're interested in getting a closer look at Dwayne's channels and following him, I would highly, highly recommend Calm Cafe for sure. And obviously following him right here on Facebook. If you jump over to his website, there's something really cool we actually didn't cover today called Bank Code.
We'll do that.
Which
it might be like part 3 or something, because it's a fun tool. We'll save that for another day.
A nice little tease, but it's a great example of how Dwayne really pays attention to kind of meeting you in the middle in terms of understanding what your challenges are and how he can work with you. So that's a whole other episode. It was something I actually experienced on my end. So, and it helped create this episode. So Dwayne, any parting words before I let you go? Sign off?
No, I just want to say thank you. It's been and this is part of again. It's we're doing it. Doing it for ourselves to then tell people how much fun it is to be on other people's shows. Because some people don't want to be. I think some people don't want to be guests because they don't, or they need to be in control. And it's fun being a guest and just releasing control to the other person.
It's certainly a very personal exercise, but yeah, and I enjoy being guests on other shows as well. It's seeing the other flip side of it. And this stuff, I don't know, this stuff is fun. I mean, if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't waste my time doing it.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, she's like, what would you do if you didn't have to, if money wasn't an issue? And I thought about it, I was like, I'd probably do this in podcasting. And which is really funny because 4 years ago, I was very much an introverted accountant.
Sure.
To then say I would do this because you make amazing connections with people. Like we found you from the Be Live group.
Right.
It's just, we posted, you posted on Be Live, hey, I'm looking for guests. And so belong to groups, connect with people, and then just say yes. Someone posted, it was like, just say yes, because if you don't ask, you're assuming the answer is no. So just ask and let and let the other person say no, or hey, surprise, surprise, chances are they'll say yes.
People don't say no. Those are perfect words to kind of leave it. And maybe it's this live streaming community, but it's so welcoming. And I think it's because people really understand the value of collaborating. And to have experienced that is certainly what keeps me here. And it sounds like what keeps you here doing it.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's fun.
We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't. So,
no.
Well, I'll let you sign off, Dwayne. I'll give you a fond farewell. And then, folks, if you want to stick around for a few minutes, I'll just cover a few other things. But join me in thanking Dwayne. Have a great night. You're a few hours ahead of me. So thanks so much for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dwayne.
Yeah.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye. Man, oh man, he's so cool. I say that after all my guests, but he's a really cool guy. So Dwayne, he's such a great example of someone who, again, his background is he's a financial advisor. Yet here he has made a really strong brand for himself. He's embracing new technologies like podcasting and live streaming to, of course, contribute to the growth of his business. But he said it himself. He's an introvert. It takes one to know one. I am one too. So he inspires me because, it's easy for kind of the extroverts out there, people with high energy, people with sort of maybe more in fashion retail, where jumping on social media might sound a little bit more easy or tempting. But it's really, I think, the folks in the trenches in their specialty areas that fascinate me the most and embracing the new technology. So again, if you are thinking about embracing social media, go for it. If you're thinking about embracing live show format, so whether it's joining Dwayne in podcasting or live show, do what he said, do what I say, just jump on and try it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. So thanks everyone for watching today. Again, if you're watching this on the replay, if you watched it all the way through, thank you. We've got some goodies for you in the comments. Again, comment Dwayne, Udemy, and a few other things. Comment me the words live show mastery to get on my secret squirrel mailing list. That will be launching very, very soon. And you'll also get a few other freebies as well. So have a great day, guys. This has been Jessica Payne live with me, Jessica Payne, Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.